Okay, everybody. So today we're going to switch to our next unit, which is Earth history. And a large part of Earth history involves fossils. So we'll spend much of this week taking a look at fossils and past life. This unit also includes not just past life, but also ancient geography, how the continents were in different places at different periods of time, how we can figure out the age of the Earth, how we can figure out the age of different past life forms, and what we can learn about those past life forms. The first thing that we need to do, though, is talk about, well, what is a fossil? And it might sound obvious. You guys certainly know what fossils look like. Many of you have probably found fossil seashells just walking around outside. Maybe other types of fossils, and I would imagine most of you have seen fossils in museums and things like that. So, in some sense, what a fossil is obvious. But then there are things that it's not so obvious. Like, for example, would a mummy be a fossil? Would an ancient artifact, like perhaps a spear point or something like that, be a fossil? And that's where things get a little bit less clear. So we can define a fossil as saying the remains or evidence, or the evidence of a living thing. By evidence, we could be talking about things like footprints, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily be part of the animal or plant. Remember, fossils can be plants too. So it could be footprints. Sometimes some animals will drag their tails and even leave tail prints and things like that. So evidence, we might see evidence of what the animal ate, things like that, but not the actual animal. And again, plants are also fossils too. But we get into this kind of gray area, this unclear area where we're talking about old things like mummies and spear points and arrowheads and things like that. Well, would this meet this definition? Would a mummy be the remains of a living thing? Well, under this definition, yeah. But we don't usually consider a mummy to be a fossil. If we think about a Native American arrowhead or spear point, well, it would meet this requirement too. The remains or the evidence of a living thing, well, a person had to have made that spear point at some time. So under this definition, well, yeah, an arrowhead or spear point would be a fossil, but we don't usually consider them to be fossils. And this kind of brings up this problem of when is something a fossil versus what we would call an artifact. There isn't a clear answer. There isn't one answer to this. In general, though, human civilization, not human beings, but civilization, has been around for about 10,000 years. So typically we would say that for a fossil, it needs to be, fossils are generally older than 10,000 years. But again, that's a generalization, and we can find lots of exceptions. So things like mummies are less than 10,000 years old. Things like Native American arrowheads and spear points are also less than 10,000 years old, often. And typically this idea of an artifact, we're talking about human ideas, human activity, human construction. Things like arrowheads, spear points, mummies, human civilization. We're talking about artifacts. And this would really fall under not earth science, but more history and social studies. So when we're talking about fossils, we're generally talking about things that are just much older than human types of things. But there are exceptions, and there are fossils that have formed in less than 10,000 years, more recent time, and are fossils. So, there is not this cut and dry definition. Humans, we like this sort of cut and dry definition, but But that isn't always the case. But generally, we would say the remains of or evidence of a living thing, but old, older than 10,000 years, not something that's usually formed during human civilization times. Most fossils are incomplete. And one of the basic ideas with fossilization is that typically, usually, only hard parts of plants or animals become fossilized. Usually the soft part of the organism was either eaten or maybe decayed before fossilization occurs. So typically the best candidates, the best creatures or organisms for fossilization are those that include hard parts, whether it's wood, shell, bone, or some sort of hard structure like the shell of a crab. Soft-bodied creatures like jellyfish are less likely to become fossils. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, it's just unlikely. What this means is that we have an incomplete fossil record. Nobody really knows what we're missing. We have essentially a biased fossil record, in that the fossil record, all of the fossils that we have, are largely creatures that have hard parts. Well, what if there was a whole variety of creatures that were soft-bodied and things like jellyfish, and we just have very little record or evidence of their existence? So we have a very incomplete fossil record. Forming a fossil is a special thing. Most creatures do not form fossils. And what this means is that fossilization, the process of becoming a fossil, fossilization is actually rare. The conditions have to be just right in order for a fossil to form. And the likelihood of an animal or plant dying and becoming a fossil is actually quite low. So we have a very incomplete record of past life. We have an incomplete picture. Now, if we take a look at the next image here, it's showing diagrams of different types of organisms. Most of them should be familiar to you. The one in the middle might not be. This is what's called a brain coral. A coral is kind of an interesting animal. It's actually a colony of animals. And if we look at coral, we have a hard shell-like material. This is called brain coral. It's a type of coral because it looks kind of like a brain. But it consists of a hard shell-like material. And if we were to look at coral with a magnifying glass, what we would find are lots of holes over the surface of the coral. You can't see that in the drawing. And in each one of those little holes would be an individual little coral animal. We could think of coral as almost like an apartment building, and each little hole is filled with an individual little coral animal, or what's called polyp. So it's really a community of organisms. But the point is that the coral has a hard part. And if we look at the creatures that are most likely to be preserved in the fossil record, well, we have the fish. Fish have bones. Fish have a skeleton, and finding a fossil fish is relatively easy. Fossil fish are common in the fossil record. Coral have hard parts. Coral, when they die, have a hard structure that gets left behind and is often fossilized. And of course, seashells are common fossils. Animals like the jellyfish, the worm, and insects are rarely fossilized, but it can happen. So I don't want you to fall into the trap that it never happens. It's just rare. It can happen, and I have seen fossil jellyfish, I have seen fossil worms, and I have seen fossil insects. So it can happen, but the conditions have to be just right in order for such a fossil to form. So the next question is, well, how would such a fossil form? How would we get a fossil of something like a jellyfish? Well, the answer is it can't have time to decay or be eaten by an animal. So it has to have been buried rapidly. So we have to have rapid burial. So there isn't time for it to decompose. So there isn't time for some other scavenger to come along and eat it. And it usually has to be buried in fine sediment. clay, or silt. And if things happen in just the right sequence and the timing is perfect, we can get fossils of jellies, we can get fossils of worms, and we can get fossils of insects. It's very rare though. The vast majority of fossils are animals that have bones, coral, shells, fish, mammals, creatures like that. You might be asking yourself, well, what about the dinosaurs? And we'll spend some time talking about dinosaurs and taking a look at dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are obviously extremely cool and very special, but exceedingly rare. Dinosaurs are very rare, and we're going to be focusing more on common fossils, fossil fish, fossil clams, and some of the smaller creatures which might not be as glamorous as dinosaurs, but are quite important in learning about past life, past ecosystems, past habitats, and what the world was like in the past. Of course, we'll take a look at dinosaurs too, in their own right. All right, let's just do a little bit more, and then we'll take a look at pictures, and we'll take a look at actual fossils too. One of the things that just worked out is that I happen to have a fairly good collection of fossils at home that we could take a look at. So most fossils form when dead organisms are buried in sediment, and for this reason, we're largely talking about sedimentary rocks. So if you want to find a fossil, you need to really look for sedimentary rock. It's extremely unlikely that you would find fossils in igneous or metamorphic rock. Possible, and we'll talk about those situations in a minute, but we're predominantly talking about sedimentary rocks. So a typical sequence for fossilization would be something like this. We have a living organism, like a fish. The animal, of course, dies. And we have the burial of the hard parts. In this case, the skeleton. Usually, the finer the sediment, the better the preservation. And we look at, silts and clays. But we can get sediments, coarser sediments, forming fossils too, like sandstones, things like that. Eventually, we have burial and compaction. We have lithification. That was something that we talked about in the fall. The process of sediment getting converted into rock. Sediment to rock. And we have the fossil form deep within the ground. Eventually, at some point though, in order for a person to happen to discover the fossil, we need uplift to occur. And then that would be the fossil being brought up due to tectonic processes back onto land, in this case. And eventually we have weathering and erosion exposing the fossil. And then we have to have a lucky person happen to walk by and find it and pick it up and collect it. Many fossils just get destroyed due to weathering and erosion. They've been uplifted, they've been exposed to the surface, but if nobody is there to see them, or find them, or collect them, they'll eventually just weather apart and disintegrate. Dinosaur bones disintegrate very quickly, and they break down even within one season. So it's very important to get out there quickly and find these things. The best time to find fossils, if you really want to find a fossil, the best thing to do would be to go out in the springtime, because we have fresh weathering and erosion due to frost wedging, frost action, breaking rocks like shale and other sedimentary rocks apart. And those fossils tumble out of the rock and haven't really weathered much. So one of the best times to look for fossils is in the springtime. And of course in sedimentary rocks. This whole process, of course, takes time. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of years.